Okay, so hello everybody and welcome to Productboard's Leadership Meetup. It's awesome to have you here and it's awesome to also have you joining online. My name is Jiří. I run the engineering platform teams here at Productboard and I have the pleasure to be your host tonight. We will be running a panel discussion. The main topic is engineering leadership at fast-growing organizations. And we have three wonderful guests today. First, Michal Ličko, also known as Michi from Productboard. Then we have Pichlik, also known as Dagi from Ataccama. And we also have Mehmet Ekmekci from Emplifi. So welcome, and please join me in welcoming our speakers with a warm round of applause. Now, here's an important part. This is not supposed to be like a scripted conversation. We would like to make this as interactive as possible. So it doesn't matter if you are here with us at our offices or if you are joining online. You can either go to Slido, you can use the hashtag ELM, or if you are here with us, you can also raise your hand. We have this beautiful mic, which I can toss around, and you can ask the questions live. And if there is anything you would like to ask the speakers, or if there is any topic that you would like to dive deeper into, don't hesitate. We will be answering the questions as we go. So there will not be like a Q&A section at the end, but we really want to keep focused on the topics that we are discussing. Also, if you are here with us, feel free to walk around, grab anything to eat, or grab anything from the fridge. Everything is free. If you are watching us online, unfortunately, you will have to go to your own fridge and come next time. So without further ado, let's jump on it, and let's start with introductions. So gentlemen, if I can ask you to tell us a little bit more about where you're coming from, what do you do? Let's kick it off with Michi.
Hi, once again. I'm Michael, as Jiří said. I'm running one of the 3 tribes here in Productboard. It's part of the product engineering. It's called prioritization and roadmaps, and how the name suggests, we are responsible for prioritization and roadmaps part of Productboard experience. And how I became a manager, I worked in Seznam for 5 years before Productboard, where I started as an IC and then eventually transferred to a management role. It was quite tough, so my management experience started like the hard way. So I know quite well how not to be a good manager, and now I'm trying to adjust and become better every day. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you. And pass the mic to Dagi.
Thank you, Michi. I'm Pichlik, aka Dagi. I'm VP of Engineering at Ataccama. Ataccama does a product for data governance and data quality. The Ataccama engineering has over 160 people, more or less, maybe 180, and still growing, which is quite challenging because I never worked for such a big engineering. I started my career as an engineering manager in 2015, I think, and back in that time, if I worked for a good data company, some of you may know it, and if we had individual contributor track, which I believe we will touch today, I would be probably stick on the individual contributor level, but I wanted to make an impact, and the only way how to make impact was switching to engineering management role. So it's me, and here I am.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mehmet. I started my career in the automotive industry. That's where I got really interested in software development. From there, I moved to the video game industry as a game designer, and that's where I sort of got interested in leadership, similar to Dagi. I saw the leadership vacuum, as we call it, so some opportunities to make better impact, to improve the environment, not just for ourselves, but for everyone. And after that, I moved to Emplifi. I was a team manager there for about 2.5 years, and very recently, I took over the role of Director of Product Engineering. For Social Marketing Cloud, we're divided into 2 departments. One is currently led by me, which we do the product features to make our product managers as happy as possible. And then we have the platform engineering ran by Otto Kovacic. 38 developers right now in product engineering, 7 teams and 5 team managers. That's somehow like a moderate organization at the moment. Yeah, and that's me.
Alrighty, thank you for the introductions. And let's kick off with the first question, which is, what does it mean for you individually to be a good leader? What are the signs by which you recognize like a strong leadership? Agi, do you want to start?
Yeah. I can. Like for me, on different levels and on different tracks. And when I talk about tracks, I mean individual contributor. Like when you are a lonely developer, lonely in quotes, or engineering manager. It's something. These are two distinct tracks. But for me, leadership is about ability to go over the obstacles. So if you would ask me what the leadership means to you, for me it's definitely, try for the challenging and ability to go over the obstacles, because no matter of what, in any kind of the leadership role, you will have to overcome the obstacles. So for me, it's very, very simple. I don't know how about you guys. What would you say?
I can pretty much align what you just said, because for me, being a leader doesn't mean being a manager. And in fact, the worst leaders I met in my life were the managers sometimes. So it doesn't come for free. Being a good leader means you need to influence people, and ideally, you want to influence them in a good way. And as very old book says, like high output management, you probably know that it's written by Andy Grove in, I don't know, 1983 or something like that, which says that the output of manager means like equals the output of the organization reporting to the manager itself, and the output of people the manager can influence indirectly, which is very true. Like you don't need to have any reports to have the ability to influence people. So even as an IC, you actually need to lead people to have a significantly higher impact. So I'm usually hearing the argument that, I don't know, I can be a database expert, or I can know the best how to optimize the for cycle on the assembler level. But like those are very rare cases, and I think maybe you can find hundreds of positions in the world that are like that. Like my grandmother probably still thinks that the developer is the person who is working throughout the night, because he's afraid of people, but it's not true in fact. So if you're not able to transfer the knowledge and teach the more junior colleagues how to do stuff in a more optimal way, your impact on the organization is minimal. And the organizations are usually paying for your impact, not for what you can do individually. So for me, being a good leader is having the ability to influence people and multiply their impact on the organization in a good way. So
yeah, I guess I'll try not to cheat and just say a good leader leads. To me, I fully agree with Simon Sinek that it's not a rank and it's a choice. So to me, a good manager or a good leader is the one that chooses to stay ahead. And the biggest part of that choice is of course the impact. But apart from that, putting people at the center, because without having people to lead, without having people to take care of, help grow, the job itself doesn't mean much. So for me, the best way to see that a leader is doing well is to check the environment, that it's safe, it allows growth, it allows to conquer the challenges, but also that it's an environment that induces the happiness, that for people to feel that they belong to that safe environment where they can grow.
That's interesting point, because for me the leadership is not only about the managing people itself. For me, even it's more like Michi said. It's more like about the impact that you have. So even people on the individual contributor track are definitely leaders. So for me, it's not only about managing people, and at least in Ataccama, we try to give people opportunity to either be in a management track or IC, individual contributor track, and still possess the leadership role, because it really doesn't matter in which part of the track you are. Something to add, guys?
So how would you describe the differences between leadership on like the management track and leadership on the IC track, and which one do you think is like more challenging?
Definitely deal with people. So for me, it's definitely difficult to lead on the people level, at least for me, because on the technical level, usually you are faced with the technical challenging, but it really depends on the size of the challenge, because there are simply so big challenges that you cannot solve or overcome by yourself, because it's usually we can talk about technical debt, microservices, etc. All these things ends within the, let's say, maybe some organization issues or things like that, and you cannot simply solve that as a single person, or I cannot imagine in the organization of some size. So for me, definitely managing people, it's difficult, more difficult than the technical leadership role. But technical leadership role at some level also require very strong soft skills and dealing with people. So you cannot divide them. That's at least my view. I don't know who of you guys want to.
For me, it's very similar. I would maybe even go more radically about saying that the overlap in between the IC leadership and the manager of people or people manager is like 90 or 70%, and the only difference for me is whether the person has reports or not. So on very senior IC roles, like senior 2 in terms of our career ladder, or even the staff engineer roles, the percentage of time spent on real coding is very close to zero. So the responsibility of such a person is to drive like cross company alignment, participate in long-term planning. These people usually have additional visibility into leadership meetings, exec meetings, or these things. So I'm saying that especially the staff engineer role is in fact like a pure management role. It's not like engineering in terms of coding. So I would say that the only difference or the main difference is whether the person has people directly reporting and therefore is responsible for managing their personal growth, evaluating their performance, and so on. But even if you're IC2 engineer, which is like a mid-level engineer in Productboard, you're expected to lead initiatives. Those are of a limited scope. Probably the challenges are smaller than if you're like staff level person, but still you need to lead somehow. So regardless the level, the leadership is like omnipotent in every possible role here. So.
Yeah, I believe for us it's a very similar approach. Like regardless if the person is on an individual contributor track or a direct leadership track, we try to endorse and motivate people to take ownership of as much as they would like. To connect it to like what I said just a few minutes ago, for us it's really important that they choose that we don't want to force people to take that responsibility. We don't want them to just grow out of proportion, that go outside their comfort zone so much that they become unhappy. But we do, I believe, understand that the necessity of this communication, this ownership, and I generally believe that even if a person is is an IC, just simply by leading those initiatives, like Michi said, they can feel a much better ownership of their work. And I believe they definitely deliver better results for us in the end.
For me, when we talk about the leadership, it's also very important to ask question whether you create opportunity to take a leadership. So one reason or one motivation for us when we change how we develop product and how we do engineering was having the opportunity to take ownership in both tracks. So for example, we have a role which is called a mission leader, and this is really a role. So anybody from within the product or engineering organization, regardless of your competency or whether you are from product or engineering, can lead a mission, and that's a tool for us that allow people to try leadership for some shortened period of time, let's say weeks. And as everything else, leadership is about training. Yeah, so everybody makes mistakes. So for me, it's very very crucial having opportunity to learn, get the feedback, and improve. So when we talk about leadership, we should think what, or you should think about the opportunities that you provide to people. I don't know about you, Michi. How is in Productboard?
As I said, like even like more junior people are given opportunity to show up, and they're actually expected to show up. And in terms of like managing people, you probably
It's somehow tied to your job letter, like to seniority of the people, or it lives even without or let's say independently on the job letter.
But we have both tracks. We have like IC tracks and managerial track. But as I'm saying, that it's only about the percentage of the time you spend like dealing with people and leading people. And for junior position, yes, if you're a junior, you probably need to listen the majority of the time and observe the other people how they're doing that. But including IC2 level, which is like the second most junior level in Productboard, there is a portion of leadership included. So for some, that's maybe important to say, like not everybody is able to make it up to the IC5 level. Like higher the level, the longer it takes for you to get in there. So like for some of the people, it might be terminal position to get into a senior position, and they're not even aspiring to get higher. And from the senior position, for me personally, the main difference is whether you can like influence other people and lead more complex things, because like you cannot get that much more efficient in writing the pure code. Like if I ask you how much time you spend writing the code, maybe for the senior people it's lower and lower, because like you're spending more and more time in meetings, like aligning with other people, interviewing people for the company, and so on and so on. So like the ratio is getting lower when you're more and more senior.
So how do you recognize the emerging leaders? How do you recognize the people who you should be giving the support to grow into the higher level leadership roles?
For me and for us as Emplifi engineering leadership, there are two main ways to identify that. One of it is naturally by choice. When our people, regardless of their seniority, they come to us and they tell us during our one-on-ones or like quarterly reviews that they would like to go down this path. They would like to take more responsibility. They would like to become better leaders. So that's one path. And then right after the appropriate discussions, we try to put them on the path. The other one is where sometimes we have to convince people, right? Like we see the quality, and I believe it probably happened to you in your career as well, where we see senior engineers and they're just so good at leading. They're like it almost comes to them naturally. They own the initiatives. They're very good at communicating, talking to people, and quite often they think in advance, right? They think about the risks, everything before we even like know about them. And then it turns into somewhat of a negotiation. Like, would they be interested in it? If not, why? How could we motivate them better? What can we offer them from a growth perspective? Like, what can we offer them as education, as a challenge? So we use those bigger challenges as somehow of motivation for them to, if they're not so well convinced, then we show them the giant challenge, and then we're like, would you like to tackle this? And if so, yeah, okay, join us in leadership, and maybe things will be better for you. So yeah, that's how we approach it right now.
Just wanted to add one caveat, because like I saw many times a very common mistake. Then, especially in the previous company, the management used to pick the best developer, and the poor guy was promoted into the manager role, and that was like a instant like destiny of the person to burn out or leave the company or something like that. Because like if the person is not interested in leading other people or not having the right skill set, it's like set for disaster. So like make sure to identify one, the ambition, and second, the potential of a person to lead before doing something like that.
Yeah, at Ataccama, as I mentioned, we have at least two roles. One is called mission leader, so anybody can possess this leadership role for the shortened period of time. Let's say weeks. Sorry, not weeks. The second one is ground crew leader, which maintains things like bugs coming from the production, supporting troubleshooting, etc. Things related to technical debt or the test automation. So these two roles. And I would even go back to job ladder. So on the level of the staff engineering, that's for me definitely, let's say, expected leadership role. And when you are about to be promoted on the staff engineering level, because it's not role, it's seniority level. There is 6 months long achievement plan. So you put together with your director the plan to get there, and you work together onto being promoted on the level. So these are two, I would say, things how we pick or would we offer to being a leader in Ataccama. By the way, I wanted to add to the previous topic when I was thinking what is expected leadership from my personally, like from my role, head of engineering. It's like I would say I have two main responsibilities. The first one is cheer people, motivate them, like encourage them to take challenges. So definitely that's the first one. And second one, which is very important, and it applies to all level of leadership. It's lead by example, because the best thing that I saw, and I try to let's say replicate. I saw in my previous or saw them by my previous leaders or people that I met. So for me, this lead by example is crucial, at least on my level, because people try to mimic. Yeah, that's how I'm thinking about it.
Okay, we have a great question from the audience. So let's assume you've identified someone who has the aspirations and the potential to grow into leadership. How do you support your people? How do you support their growth and their education?
How long has it been? I don't remember. Has it been a year and a half? We've set up leadership workshops in our company. This is where, when we identify people who want to go down that path, or we think, regardless of if they want to go down there or not, that they could use these kind of practice or skills, we try to put them in those workshops right away. And then that involves, of course, the theoretical part, which is books, some training on the frameworks, on communication. But then also we try to go through the practice. What's the framework and what we do in the company. So that's quite often the first step for us, to put them in the workshop, because we would love to see as well if they enjoy it. It's a big part for us that they join those workshops and they see what like behind the curtain, how things are running, and that they tell us that, yeah, I think I can do this, I enjoy this. The rest is practice, and then of course, when they tell us that they feel ready enough, handling the transition to the role.
I maybe add a little bit more controversial aspect of it because like so far in Productboard, as I said, like there are different tracks. There is IC track and the management track, and you can pretty much help your people grow into leadership position by giving them the right opportunities as individual contributors. But like so far on my own team, it was pretty much always the case. We were hiring the manager externally, which is sometimes good because it brings new perspective to the company. It brings new management style. Yeah, for sure, you can have the leader who is like a natural leader, and it's like a hidden gem on your own team. But like in my past experience, there are two different things. Having the management track as the only way to go to be promoted or get more money or something like that, or having the pure aspiration to actually become a people manager, which is not that common. Or in my own experience in Productboard, it was not that common on my own team. Like every time people wanted to be promoted or to lead, it was usually the case of getting higher on the IC career ladder rather than switching the tracks, because like switching from the IC to managerial track is actually a career change, not the promotion. So I don't think actually it's so common thing. Yeah, it happens, but didn't happen in my experience here in Productboard on my team.
Yeah, maybe to add what Mehmet said, we have something that we called Development Center and Leadership Academy. So for the both engineering managers and technical leaders, we have these two, let's say, courses. The first one, we call it's Development Center. You go there, we have psychologists, people from HR, engineering managers, and you do various exercises that we collect the feedback, how you behave in different situation, and after this DC, the development center, you get this this feedback. So you see, what are your strengths and weaknesses, and after this development center, you go to, we call that Leadership Academy, and during this Leadership Academy, you do various exercises in a group in order to improve your weaknesses. And this applies for the engineering managers and also for the let's say technical leadership role, for example, individual contributors, etc. So it's the way how we support them in Ataccama, and definitely supporting people in their growth is crucial one. Otherwise, you would lose them, definitely. So it doesn't only pick the right person. Supporting that person in the growth is crucial.
I will maybe add one more thing, because like we are talking about how we can help the ICs to become managers, but sometimes it goes the opposite direction. When the manager actually somehow finds out that like the better fit is being an IC, and this is completely valid move, because like you need to you as a manager, you're responsible for helping out the people to find the best spot in the company. So don't be afraid of doing that actually with your people. Like if it's the case and people feel like that, you can get the best IC out of that transition. So that's it.
I think the worst mistake that you can suicide is let the person leave for such a silly reason that he wants to go back from the management track to IC track. Like that's absolutely silly reason. Like why not? Why don't you change the your career? Yeah, I think it's completely valid.
Maybe to add one last thing into it, that's a good way how to actually create a safe environment for the people to try out the management role. because like you definitely don't want to do the move that is not revertible. So if you have the option to revert back to IC, if it's not a good fit, it's probably much safer for the people to actually try leading people, figure out whether it's the right fit, and then eventually return back if it's not. So.
We have time to. I have a question for the guys, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
Do you guys believe that it could ever be the case that leadership as a craft or a discipline cannot be taught? That part of it is natural. That some people are not built for it, or it's about how much education or how many opportunities we provide for them?
I'm currently reading a book. I don't know what's the English name. It's something like Growth Mindset. And I fully believe it's something that you can, I mean, like leadership is something that you can learn and develop. So for me, it's not that it's something given to you and you cannot do with that anything. Like I don't believe in that.
Yeah, I have quite similar opinion on that one. For sure, as with everything, as your natural talent for the athletics, you can run much faster, much sooner. But then if you train, eventually become at least at the same level or the same performance. So the same with leadership. The more you practice, the better you are. So for someone it's easier. For someone it's harder. Somebody is really enjoying leading people. Somebody is not. So like, but it doesn't mean that you cannot learn it and you cannot do that. You can, but.
So coming back maybe to the topic of the growth and the support, we have a question from the audience. How do you measure the growth of the people and the effectivity of the resources and the support that you provide to the emerging leaders?
For me, and I think for us in Emplifi, there are a few things. The first thing is we try to watch how comfortable people get in tricky situations. It may be a conflict resolution, right? Can this person is getting more comfortable, better at solving conflicts between, let's say, engineering and product, engineering and support, and so on. So that's one part that, to me, that shows that now they're using some of the techniques, some of the theory that we taught them in real life. The other part is there are, of course, some theoretical and practical situations, case studies that we use. So sometimes we simply ask them how they feel about a certain situation, how they would like to transition. To me, it's more about the check on their confidence and the potential team that they will take over, than just having like a set deadline. Okay, 6 months from now, you are going to be a leader, or else kind of situation.
For me, it's definitely measuring the impact that the given person has.
Yeah, like technically for the product teams and organizations, it's like team is a box, and you pour some money into the box, and you expect some kind of output on the contrary. So like that's the first ultimate measure of the team efficiency. But besides that, it's like ENPS. We are measuring that like bi-yearly or something like that. So if the manager is not good in some way, you will instantly see it on ENPS because the feedback is not good. And also during the performance review cycles, we are collecting the peer feedback and upwards feedback. So you will discover sooner than later that something is not correct. And the first sign is usually a delivery is somehow slipping. The team is not predictable. Is not able to form any solid commitment and keep up on the promises. So there are multiple signs to identify something is not wrong. And then if you observe such a sign, you need to go and discover deeper where is the root cause. So
maybe to add something is really difficult to measure such a things, and for me is also crucial to set up, and some of you guys were mentioned that set up the environment when you can do mistakes, and you can learn from the mistakes. And I think it's much It's more important than measure how the given person, growth in the leadership role, because I think it's almost equal. So if you have the safe environment when people can make mistakes and learn from that mistake, then then you get really growth in the impact, I would say.
So Michi, earlier you made a great point that it's important to look after the motivation of people doing the transition to leadership, and that sometimes people are pushed into those roles without really having the potential and having the motivation for it. And we have a question around compensation. So there's a question: does the compensation for leaders and IC or managers and IC differ if they are on the similar level? And do you think that sometimes people are motivated by money to jump into leadership and they don't really internally want to do it?
I would say as far as I know, like the career ladder and then the compensation bands, the short answer is no. Like if you put the position like correspondent IC position and managerial position side by side, you should land on roughly same salary bands. Like it depends on how you shift it, but like on some seniority level, like I don't know, for me especially, being a senior to engineer is very similar to being like an entry level engineering manager. So like the main motivation shouldn't be money for us, at least.
For us, there's no difference. I can confidently say that there's no difference. Actually, we have some individual contributors who earn more than our managers, and I believe rightfully so, right? Because for us, it's important is what the value people are bringing on the table, rather than their position, title, or rank. Should people be driven by money choosing this kind of path? Personally, to me, no, absolutely not. And it's not that because it's not worth it, right? Like I don't want to say it's not worth it, guys. Don't do it for the money. But it's more about it motivates you better to solve things for people, help them grow, do better delivery for the whole environment and the organization, than just focus on the compensation part of it. But again, I also believe that if you do it right, if you do it well, it will eventually come.
I would say yes to the question why some of the people consider or assume the engineering manager roles, because they think they can earn more money, but that's not true in Ataccama. And I would even say that the people on the top ranks of the individual contributor, I see track can earn like directors or so. So definitely it's, if not equal, I would say maybe even IC contributors are a little bit favorable.
But to be fair, Productboard for me personally is the first company where it is like that. Like it's very common, especially in like a Czech environment, and in the other companies, that the only possible way how to improve your pay grade is to become a manager, which is completely invalid to me. But it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't mean that it's not like that in the other companies.
If it's not if R&D, it's not called engineering, but only IT. That's definitely true. It's like Czech companies called R&D or engineering for whatever reason, like IT. So in these companies, yes, it was a joke.
So a bit more personal question. Do you find management more stressful than IC roles? If yes, why do you stick with the role?
You guys think? Yes, definitely. Absolutely. It's been a month for me since I took over the director role. And sometimes the guys were like, yeah, they're laughing right now because sometimes they were joking like, are you okay? Like, are you doing fine? Should we fetch you some coffee or something? And it sometimes gets that way, right? Because it's a huge responsibility. We have a lot of people that look up on us, that they expect something, they expect results, they expect decisions, they expect help, they expect compensation. And it's us who, we are there for that specific reason. That's why we're there, to provide them and set them up for success. Yes, it's definitely more stressful, but why do we stick to it? Personally, for me, it's because like I care. To me, as a part of this role, caring is not optional. I think to me, it's very important to care, to know the people, to make sure that they grow, to make sure that they deliver the right amount, and then they're happy with what they deliver, and all of that. So to me, sticking to it is simply about like seeing people get to that point.
I'm not thinking about it like in the perspective of stress. Like for me, it's more being accountable and responsible, and that's a difference for me. Like I'm as an individual contributor, you are responsible usually for I would say a couple of GitHub repositories or so, but in my position, I am responsible not only for almost 200 people, but also for the whole company. So I usually say if something bad happen in engineering, it's always my mistake to some extent. So for me, maybe it's not stressful, but I do feel huge responsibility and accountability.
You almost quoted a book, Extreme Ownership. I just read it for the, I don't know, second time. It's pretty good. So you're more than motivated to read it from my side, because it's showing exactly what Dagi said, that regardless of who is responsible as a first line person for an incident or whatever problem you might have on a team, it's ultimately a manager whose fault it is. So that's why it might be a little bit more stressful. But on the other hand, I would say that even if you're IC, and especially on these higher positions, you need to deal with many people. It's not always smooth path forward. You need to deal with other opinions, conflicts, etc. So it's equally stressful. So manager is not something super special. It's not a superhero. It's just normal people. So
maybe the second part of the question: what is the motivation? For me, at least it's the challenge itself. It's challenge and opportunity to learn something new. That's what drives me and help me wake up and start working every day. So for me, it's the challenge, and on one side, and on other side, the opportunity to learn something new every day.
Before we move on, do we have any questions here in the audience? We have this like beautiful mic which I can toss around. Go ahead.
So regarding the last topic, I think we all agree that like leadership is hard, like dealing with people, with the obstacles, with the conflicts, and so on. So how to keep sanity?
I was always saying, do not take stuff too personally. Like, and when some of the potential conflict appears, I'm always trying to say it, especially to myself, that we have the same interest and we're motivated by the same goal, which is like a company's success at the first point. That's why the people are there, and if it's not the case, they shouldn't be there. But like even considering that fact, you might need to solve some kind of a conflict. So yeah, people are different, have different opinions, but I'm trying to not take it personally, and it usually helps. So
I started with triathlon, with Ironman. So for me, it's different, like accepting also different challenges. So for me, having something else than my work, what is important to me, and I put aside my family, which is top. It's somehow how I'm able to on one side relax. On the other hand, it gives me opportunity to having time to think about the things from the different perspective. So for me, it's sports. Otherwise, I would probably be a workaholic.
So the question was how to keep the sanity, right? Right. You don't. Jokes aside, it's hope to me, like in a way that like hope that we as the leadership, we will have an impact. We will improve things, and that's what we work for. Like, yeah, it may sound a little poetic, but to me, it's a bit of a noble cause, right? That we work so hard, we work day and night, and to me, in the end, it's the hope that we will help people improve things. And personally, that keeps me going. Yeah.
I would say that the most tough things about the leadership in our position or level is that nobody give a shit if the things go really well, but you are on the first shot when some things go wrong, and that's it's important to realize this fact that you are not here or installed into this position because people like you, but quite opposite, because you are able to solve all the kind of the issues that can imagine. So if you can accept this challenge, like nobody will appreciate you to some extent, that it's much easier to deal with this, mental healthiness and sanity.
So there is a question that assumes that most new managers are struggling when they get into leadership roles. I think that's a fair assumption. So how long do you feel people should stay in the role to be able to tell whether it's a good fit for them or not? What would you say is like the minimum amount of time you should, or maximum amount of time you should give it before you kind of call it a day and go back to IC?
I think how long they need and how long the company will allow them, but and also for such a time that will not affect their health in a negative way. That's another thing. But like, jokes aside, I think that depends on the person. Usually you can tell within the first half a year whether the potential is there or not, or you probably should know even before the person will go and try. But like, half a year should be enough, like in my opinion, to consider whether to continue with that experiment or not.
Yeah, half a year to me like sounds very reasonable. Simply because no matter how hard we try to prepare people for leadership positions, it will be tough for them. It's basically right outside their comfort zone, especially if it's going to be their first leadership job. And it's almost psychological that we despise things that we can't do. If we're not good at something, we're going to not like it at first. But that's why, to me, usually the first quarter is like where we have those like tiny wheels behind the bicycle. We sort of push them. We try to help them understand things better, not take things personally. Like Michal said, we help them grow even more if we can. And then the second quarter is where, okay, like now the wheels are off. Let's see how you're doing. We're still here if you fall, and making a mistake is completely okay. But now this is sort of your show kind of approach. So I guess, yeah, half a year is enough to figure out if someone is ready or not.
And also, it's very similar when you have somebody who is not performing well and the person is on the underperformance or performance improvement plan. The main question always is whether the issues you see are coachable or fixable within the reasonable time, or you see no chance that the person can actually improve within the reasonable time frame. So that's probably pretty much it for me. How I would decide whether to continue or to quit the experiment.
How do you recognize if the issues are or are not fixable in a reasonable time frame?
That's very hard actually for me, and I have experienced it a couple of times. Usually, you know when you see it. If it's like a personality trait issue, like I don't want to give like very concrete examples here, but like if the person is like a kind of a sociopath and have problems, dealing with the other people, and you discover that issue later. These things are very hard to fix, and it requires multiple years of coaching and maybe even a psychologist assistant, rather than something you can fix on your own as a manager. So those are typically some hardly fixable, personality traits that are no-go for me, or when I would decide not to continue.
So carrying on with the topic of personal experiences, can you share some conflicts or interesting leadership situations that you ran into recently and that allowed you to learn a lot of new stuff, either about yourself or about the other person in question?
So examples of conflicts, you said.
Mm-hmm. That was the question.
Okay, so we probably have it as the area of topics later in the presentation, but I will share it anyway. So usually the conflict can appear when you're giving or receiving the feedback, in my eyes. So it's a noble cause to give somebody a feedback, because like you hope to improve things for everybody, right? But it depends on the way you're trying to do that. So you can have two totally different personalities, and one particular situation I have experienced some time ago was ultimately one person saying literally to the other person, "Hey, you are useless," and he meant like, you probably need to improve some specific aspects of of your self-organization and the way you communicate. But he shared the feedback in such a way that was not actionable for the other person, and it actually insulted the person rather than help the person. So like the purpose of feedback should be to help the person, but also in a way that the receiver side can accept and act on it. So I needed to solve such a conflict and explain to both sides that their intentions were pure. It was just a bad communication that made it to become a conflict.
Yeah, I thought about a recent situation between two of our development teams that I believe taught me a lot as well. So to just go over the scenario, Team A proposed a feature, and then it was put in deep freezer for a while, and then a year later it was brought back up, and now it's going to be done by Team B. And after some time, spending some time on it, Team B they're almost at the stage of delivering the feature. However, it's not at all at the state that Team A wished for. So what they planned doesn't match what Team B is trying to deliver. If they're watching, I guess they know that I'm talking about them now. So of course it led to a conflict, led to a big conflict. On one side we have an ownership from Team A. They created a feature. They thought about bringing some value on the table. And then Team B, as the main the people behind the delivery, they feel, of course, a little offended that the result wasn't liked, that it wasn't up to their standard and everything. So it led to Slack conversations, a lot of escalated, big escalated situation. How we approached it, with one of our senior team managers, we put them inside a room. We ordered some pizza. So this is one of the things that I like the most. So celebrate success, but embrace, in brackets, celebrate failure harder if you can. So we put them inside a room. We ordered a lot of pizza, salad, a lot of food. We prepared some topics. And to this day, I don't know if it was us facilitating the discussion that solved the situation or it was the pizza, but I guess we'll figure that out later. But in the end, they were able to solve things very well without ever needing us. And to me, it was a very good experience on following the approach of like most respectful interpretation. So assuming that the other side or the other team or the people inside the organization are never there trying to hurt us or offend us, but they're also trying to do their best with their contribution. So to me, it was a great way to solve that issue. It was the first time that I've seen it work so well, so successfully. And yeah, I'm definitely gonna try that again. Yeah.
I cannot recall a concrete example, but usually I'm thrown into situation when people, as Mehmet mentioned, cannot agree the consensus, right? And in such case, I think me as a leader have to recall one thing, which is maybe unpopular opinion, but the software development, it's not definitely total democracy when anybody can do anything. So for me, it's realized this, like responsibility and my role. So if you guys cannot agree on the solution, then I will make the decision. So for me, at my level, it's sometimes about the making or doing tough decisions when the people cannot agree.
I just wanted to add one more thing, which is like in this like post-COVID era, it was usually like when some kind of a friction in interpersonal communication, friction, or any other friction and collaboration in between two people appeared, it was usually given the fact that people have never seen each other in person and they only saw that that part of the face appearing on their monitor. And in my own experience, when I thought like somebody is stupid or like cannot be serious about some things, it helped me a lot when I saw the person like in person, and I had informal chat by beer with such a person, was able to learn something work unrelated about hobbies, family, and everything. And I totally changed the perception of a person, and it helped me a lot to understand where the person is coming from, what's the personal background and everything. So if you think you have a conflict, make sure to see the person physically, and it helps in most of the cases.
What are your other recipes for delivering feedback so that it resonates with the other party and it's not perceived as like too blunt and too rude? Besides getting to know them like as a person, what are the other components?
I have a mic, so I will start. I don't want to quote like various books on giving the feedback or receiving the feedback that it needs to be actionable, it needs to be specific, and blah blah blah. For me, it always depends on the particular person you are giving feedback to. So the person needs to be able to accept it. So it cannot be too direct, because the person will immediately switch into defending mode rather than being open to receive the feedback. So you need to know the recipient well, and it's a dichotomy of leadership to pick the right level of directness over the political correctness. So sometimes you may overshoot, and it will probably not end up well. Sometimes you may be too polite and the person will not even hear that. So it depends. You need to try and see what's happening on the other side and adjust the communication style if it's not working. So
for me, and sometimes it's really tough. It's being blameless or having this blameless culture, because it happened to me many times that I blame somebody and I didn't have the whole context. So for me, it's important listen the other opinion and then being in the situation when the problem is shared between us. It's not I am the person that blame you for something. Like it's a like take a look. We have a problem. Let's find a solution together. That's definitely one thing. Second thing that I'm trying to do is during each of my one-on-one, ask the my partner like, okay, is there something that I should do or I should stop do to help you? So helping the person express their needs help me also a lot, because some people are, let's say, afraid of giving you direct feedback. So this sentence or quote like, is there something I can do for you? Is there something I can help you with? Or should I stop do something? Really, tears down the wall. So that's my two recipes for you.
On specifics of giving feedbacks on tips, I preach a lot about the two frameworks. One is Marshall B. Rosenberg's nonviolent communication framework. Of course, is something that we talk a lot during our leadership trainings, leadership path for our people. And the second thing, Mark Horstman and Mike Ozan's manager tools framework. So first of all, to me, it's very important to check the relationship before I provide the feedback. Because no matter how justified the feedback is for that person, our relationship may not be at that level yet. So I always ask people to check their relationship. Like around 8 or 10 one-on-ones that you've built the relationship, and now both sides feel ready to talk about each other and their performance. And after that, I always have a 4-step plan. One is ask if they're open for feedback. They may not be having a good day, right? Like they may be having a really crappy day and they just don't want to hear it that day. So first thing, check if they're open for feedback. The second thing is show the data, as in what is causing me to give or provide this feedback. This can be sometimes subjective, right? It can be what I observed. To me, the step 3 is showing the impact of it. So I ask for your permission. Here's the data. Here's what I think the impact is. So based on your behavior, it led to this conflict. Now, as two teams, we have to spend more time on this specific feature. And then the final part is showing some potential solutions. So showing to people that I have thought about it on my spare time on how we can solve this. Here are some options. And if you would like, I will help you achieve these options, these solution paths. So yeah, to me, that's the recipe.
Just wanted to mention one more thing. Sometimes you probably need to throw a bomb into the room, especially when the person is not receptive to the feedback. So that, especially when you are willing to change some deeply rooted behavior, the person might not listen to you or might think that it's not a serious issue, so it's not even worth fixing. So sometimes you need to really pick the extreme solution and be super direct. Hey, it really sucks. You need to fix it right now. Like otherwise, like we will fire you or something like that. But you need to use it very carefully, and on every thing like that, you're wasting your managerial credit, and it takes time to get it back. So it's possible tool, but in extreme situations, and to be used very carefully and rarely.
Do you have a different approach if you are delivering the feedback face-to-face and if you are delivering it remotely, let's say like via Zoom?
I'm always trying to have hard conversations in person, so it depends on severity. But during the COVID, there was no other option than do it through Zoom. So you're probably much slower, and you're steeply increasing the directness, or so I was more careful in terms of approaching the problem, describing the issues over Zoom than I'm usually in person.
Yeah, definitely. Any in-person feedback session is much better over the direct contact. As you mentioned, Mehmet, I think that at least some kind of emotional relationship with your peer is much better, and you see how you should frame the elephant in the room. Like it's over the Zoom is like you see the avatar like few pixels, and it's really difficult and tough.
May I ask a follow-up question to the guys again, because I'm curious. There's a balance, right? There are times where the feedback can't wait. The situation is dire, it's causing problems, or it has an impact. But we're on Zoom and the camera is off. So like, how do you guys shape that line? When do you decide that, okay, the camera's off, we're not face-to-face, but I have to provide this feedback, versus, okay, I guess I have to wait until we're both in the office together?
If it's a bigger meeting involving multiple people on the call, I would send a private message to a person through Slack. And if it's something like I can address in written communication, I would send it right away. If it's something more serious, I would probably ask the person to schedule a call or something like that, and tell the person like in a private channel. I would definitely not go public with the feedback in a larger group.
No, definitely not providing the feedback within the large group. Definitely having that conversation private is something that everybody appreciate. Like it may even harm the providing the feedback in a, let's say, kind of group call. It's not the good thing, because you may influence the whole group. People feel guilty or bad. So definitely one-on-one. And if something is really needed to be delivered ASAP, I usually wait till end of the meeting and then reach out to person via Slack. So and sometimes it's like, hey, jump on a call. I wanted to discuss something, and that's the way how I approach that.
We only have time for a couple more questions. Is there someone else in the audience here in the room who would like to ask something? Good catch.
Hi. I wonder, you guys have big team under you, your leadership. So I wonder, how much time do you guys spend actually taking care of the relationship with the people that you're leading, and how important is this on your leadership? Because I understand that when you're giving feedback, that having a relationship with your team is easier, or it make it easier or difficult sometimes. So yeah.
You.
Tough question. I started at Ataccama in October 2020, I think. And back in that time, we shut down the offices, and everybody was on the Zoom call. So I had to develop all the relations via Zoom, and it sucks. It sucks. So going back to your question, I wanted maybe I'm a kind of a person that like this kitchen sink conversation, like how about the new things, child's wife, etc. So usually during my one-on-ones we spend maybe at least 10 minutes, maybe 10, let's say 10 minutes from 1 hour just talking about various topic not related to our work. It's very important for the creation, the relationship, because I wanted to, learn more about the situation, family stuff, etc. So that's one of my components that I use. So spending at least like 10 minutes from an hour, like discussing something not related to the work. And then when we have I call that weekly engineering leadership weekly kickoff. So almost first 5-10 minutes we talk about unrelated things, because you need to get the feeling how people feel, what is the mood, etc. So definitely important part. Plus the situation with the COVID is now much better. So having this, all the kind like pubs offsite, go for it, because it helps a lot. For me, this kind of out of work activities are like with unlimited budget. I would say like I do whatever I can to support this informal meetings, because over 50% of my staff was joined Ataccama during the COVID. So this interpersonal relationships couldn't evolve properly. And as you mentioned, it's crucial, or I consider them crucial.
Yeah, during COVID, it's super hard, or it was super hard. And we tried a couple of things like virtual gatherings, virtual wine and beers, and, playing online games together through Zoom, and nothing worked actually. Like people got excited about it because it was something new, so they all attended, but I don't know, third iteration, there was like 40% of the initial attendance. So people are like frustrated about staring into the computer a whole day, like, and the in-person interaction is actually needed to form efficient relationships. So I would agree with Dougie on the water cooler conversation. It's the most powerful tool the manager can use is like, walk through the office, see people, meet them, be genuinely interested in knowing more about the people. And it doesn't end by you, actually, because you as a manager, your interest should be also to create the right environment so that the other people can create efficient working relationships. So it differs tribe to tribe here in Productboard, but for us, we are having on-site weeks once per 6 weeks, so that everybody from all around the globe flies into the Prague, and we are meeting in person. We are having like informal events, like dinner, gathering, like teams are having their informal events. So we are investing into bringing people together and help them to form these relationships.
So if I understand the question right, it's how important is it to us to spend time with everyone and develop the relationships? Did I get it right?
And also, like, how much time do you spend actually, or how often do you do your one-on-ones? Because I've heard that all of you does them, but like, how often, how close are them? And yeah.
Like for me, for example, with the engineering managers, it's once a week. So with the developers directly, I don't have that one-on-ones. But apart from that, I don't think personally I have the excuse of, I don't have time to spend with you guys. To me, it's the opposite. To me, it is as important to spend time with the managers, also with the developers. And for that, how we try to handle that is events. So that means breakfast, that means game nights, that means virtual or in-person events that where we can really like meet with people. And apart from that, we try to do roundtables where we just sit down with a team, with a specific team, and we discuss issues, we discuss their concerns. Apart from that, coffee talk, kitchen talk is a big part of it. But I think people in Emplifi know by now that like if there's free food, I'm there to eat it. So they will just, if they need to talk to me, they'll probably chase the free food and they will find me. So yeah, that's how I handle it.
By the way, I developed one pattern, and over the Zoom, I usually don't do longer one-on-ones than 60 minutes. But when we meet in person, I usually do not cap myself like for the 60 minutes, but let's say for the 90 minutes or so. So I want to have this time, like even grab a coffee, take a walk, discuss even the things that we didn't have time to talk about. So maybe one takeaway from this COVID time or from the COVID time was like not having this hard capping on the one-on-ones when we meet in person. But as we probably agree that the developing the relationship and maybe developing the trust is a crucial one. Yeah. So maybe it's not about the relationship, like we would have to go to a pub for the beer, but having the relationship is not the relationship. Sorry, the trust, mutual trust is the key component to be cared of.
Regarding the duration or frequency of my one-on-ones with my direct reports, it's usually once a week, when 1 hour. It can be more often if it's needed, if we have some issue. It's not only my direct reports. It's also like a technical leaders on, senior plus positions, because like those are also, in need of my, assistance, like on a regular basis. But in general, I'm trying to meet everybody on my team within some reasonable period of time, and talk about whether the person is happy. What can I do to enable him to become even better? So like you should be interested in meeting even your most junior staff in person regularly.
Folk. I saved it. Good. Any other question here?
Maybe one more tip for you guys. It's doing this skip level meeting, because on the level of your direct reports, you might get the I would say skewed information. So for me, this checkpoint with skip level -1, -2, it's a quite common to see how it looks like, I would say, under the hood, because then it's really interesting how are the information skewed when goes up. Like, so doing this skip level meeting, it's also crucial for me.
One thing though, what not to do during your skip levels is that you need to understand that you're different weight categories. So like what you're saying is really resonating with people and can be perceived as a direct order to act on something. So if you're presenting your ideas that are not a final solution or a final decision, you need to be explicit about it, because like it happened to me multiple times that I said, hey, it would be exciting if we had something, and then the person spent like a couple of weeks actually focusing on that thing, and it was just a random idea. So be careful, because like your direct reports are on a different seniority level, and you work with them in a different way. So yeah, that's just one caveat.
More questions here? Not, I think we have like time for 2 more questions from the Slido. So the high strength one is, what are your working hours? Thank you. Does your job end when you leave the office, or your job goes home with you?
So I will go first. I'm personally trying to Persist some kind of a work-life balance. I have 3 months old daughter, so I need to save some time for her. So right now it's tricky, and I don't want to bring my work back home. It's not fully possible. You always need to react to some fires and then the rest of super important stuff. But you need to try to be as efficient as possible while you're working, and then like try to forget about work while you're back home and be most efficient with your family. So that's actually one secret sauce for keeping your sanity, not bringing your work back home if it's possible. So I'm trying to do that. I'm successful, give or take, but yeah, it's not black and white.
I personally don't have defined working hours. I wish I did, but one of the reasons for that is we have people in Argentina, Brazil, US, and as their leaders, I believe we have to be available to them. I don't think that like when they have an issue, when they need something, I think all of us, we try to make ourselves available to them. But apart from that, if things are going okay, I think one of the best ways to do is to separate it. Like Nishi said, I think it's important for us to stay sustainable, right? That we as leaders, we tend to work hard, we try to stay ahead, but if we do it so much and we get burned out, then we cannot help people anymore. So I think it's good to have those working hours defined, and some days or sometimes to say that, okay, I just left the office, I'm not going to check my phone or computer anymore, at least for 2 hours. Then, but yeah, it's good to have those lines, I think.
I just wanted to add that sometimes it's actually a good tool for you to validate whether you are doing a good job as a manager or not. Like, have you ever tried to uninstall Slack or something and go offline for 1 or 2 weeks? What would happen to your team? If the answer is that under the normal circumstances the team would survive, you're probably okay. If not, you have a serious issue. So this is something you can try. And back in Seznam, I used to travel for a month-long vacation, even as a multi-team manager. I'm unfortunately not able to do it here at Productboard, but 2 weeks should be okay for me, so I'm fine, hopefully.
I would say that not taking your work or job home, it's impossible on the home office setup, right? Because I realized that when I was traveling back and forth to the office, there was at least cool down period. But without this cool down period, for me, it was mentally difficult to switch off the head out of the working problem. So even when I closed the laptop at, I don't know, 5 p.m., still my head was working on full speed. So for example, I played 2 hours with my children and still cannot recall what we did together because I was still, working internally. So with this remote setup or home office, it was at least difficult to me. On the other hand, I was trying to having this flexible schedule. So, for example, when my wife needed for me, I don't know, to take care of our sons, I rescheduled my calendar in order to support her. So for me, it was like more about ability to being flexible than being strict about the working hours, like closing the laptop and at 5 p.m. because it didn't work for me.
Can you share some tricks that help you disconnect, especially as you mentioned, Agi, if you are working from home?
Yeah. Definitely the switch off that my wife hates is going for a bike for 3 hours or going for 2 hours long run or so. But definitely having this kind of physical break helps me a lot. I don't know, how about you guys?
To me, it's two things, especially if I'm working from home. Change of the outfit. So if I'm wearing sweatpants, no force can bring me to Zoom. The second thing is I try to do something physical. I turn off the laptop, take a walk, or turn off the laptop, do some exercise, and then I think that really helps move out of that mindset.
Yeah, I can just confirm that physical exercise work well. So I usually go for a run or, do some, short yoga session or stretching at home. It works real well. For me, I'm usually office person. So the ultimate switch is the transportation time. So I'm either listening to audiobook or doing something else, which is like a mental switch that the work focus ends and now the family focus begins. So with the on-site or the office, it's much simpler for me. With the home office, it's not that straightforward, but physical exercise is usually the way to go. Or meditation. We have a company Headspace account, so that works as well.
By the way, an audiobook triggers, at least in my head, the reaction of checking Slack. I don't know why. Maybe because the audiobook is playing from the device, so I have to check Slack messages. But sometimes podcast or audiobook works for me as the mental switch as well.
Okay, let's go for the last question. If you could recommend a single book about leadership, what book would it be?
Couple of books.
So yeah, you can recommend multiple.
Hard Things About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz.
It's hard to pick one. Actually, my coach told me that maybe nobody has formulated a new revolutionary idea for about the last 6 years or something like that. So every book pretty much contains the same thing in a different code, rephrased and formulated to match the up-to-date topics. But from the last experience, I really enjoyed the Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. Not because it presented something extremely new, but I really like that. Sometimes we perceive our problems to be difficult and the leadership to be difficult. But when you need to decide about people's life and that your failure is a matter of death and life, it puts different light on the leadership challenges. So I really like the practical examples and real life military experience presented in the book, but it was not in a forceful way. So it's pretty good. It's really worth reading, in my opinion.
So maybe two more tips. Radical Candor, it's a classical one, and Turn the Ship Around, I would say. That's also great.
Yeah, Turn the Ship Around is great. But my suggestion would be 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, Patrick Lencioni. Short enough of a book. I would say read it and try to do it the exact opposite, and you will achieve great results. Interestingly, it sort of correlates almost one-to-one with the Scrum values too, right? So I think it's 2 birds with 1 stone. Yeah, that would be my suggestion.
By the way, there is thousands of books about the management, so you can pick and you cannot make a mistake. But for me, it's also important to read books about something else. For example, Black Swan or any other books that give you different perspective on the leadership or the complexity of the world that we live in are very useful, because sometimes you are really exhausted by all these tips and patterns and etc. So it's important to switch the context and getting different perspective.
As for the engineers, there was an interesting book I read just recently, which was Algorithms to Live By. This is
I don't like it.
You don't like it? Why so? Sorry for the tricky question.
I would have to find my Goodreads review, but I know that I hate it. I don't know the exact the exact reason. Maybe because I understand the algorithms and they were explained in strange way. I don't know why. By the way, if you consider to reorganizing your engineering, definitely team topologies would be my pick, and also high performance teams. It's just humble book. I don't know whether it's Accelerate is the book.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. So thanks all for joining us live. Thanks for coming to our beautiful offices. Don't leave. After we wrap up, we will have the speakers hanging around, so you can catch them and you can talk to them, grab some beer on the tap. Huge thanks to all our speakers. Please give them one more round of applause.